So, couple things. If you have any questions, you can, of course, you're welcome to ask. But you can also just put the questions in the chat, and we'll address them at the end of the lecture. And yeah, I'm really glad. It's so nice to see all of you here. We appreciate you coming, and we especially appreciate our guest speaker tonight talking about a topic that is really important to all of the startups and all the founders. And that's coming up with a strategy for the branding and really being systematic and pragmatic about the way that we approach our brand identity. And it's so important. It's such an important topic, and it's so salient right now in everyone's minds. So we're so lucky to have you, and we're happy to have you here. And actually, Christopher, I'll let you introduce yourself and pass it on to you.
Sure. Thanks, Tanya. Hi, everybody. My name is Chris, and first I want to thank you for spending your evening with me here. Tonight, we're here to talk about brand strategy. When business owners, a lot of business owners, when they hear branding or brand strategy, immediately they think of the artistic elements, the design elements. They want to go and create a logo and print out flyers, put up a website, and basically get attention for their business in order that some of this attention will convert into paying customers. However, branding or brand strategy is a step before that. And as we'll discuss tonight, I'll show you how to create a strategic brand identity for your business. As my tagline says, it's more science than art. I will show you a simple 3-step process of identifying the things that you need to focus on in order to derive that brand identity and then convert that into those design elements. This is not meant to be a deep dive on all of these areas, such as brand identity research and such. I'll talk about it, but it wouldn't be going deep into how you conduct that kind of research. However, I want tonight's session to be to get you thinking about what it takes to create a consistent brand strategy from the beginning. So a little bit about me. In my day job, I'm the Senior Manager of Program Marketing at UCLA Health. I actually just started this week, so I just finished day 3. Prior to this, I worked in health IT startups for the last 5 years. 3 years was with a company called Prescribe Wellness, which is a health IT SaaS company for community pharmacies, where I held multiple roles, including account management, client services, a bit of strategic project management, and others. And then most recently, I was head of marketing for a technology spin out of a large clinic based in San Diego. So they had developed some technology that they used to operate their clinics, and they were looking to commercialize the IP. So they brought me on to do communications and marketing for them. Outside of my day job, I write about career development and networking leadership topics at purposeredeemed.com, and often I speak at universities and professional associations. So, to start off, what is branding? If we were to distill everything down, you can get this. The purpose of branding or brand strategy is to advance the brand identity and equity. We'll talk about how to develop that brand identity, but it's important to understand that there's an identity that you want to portray. Now, branding is not just slapping your logo and your colors on something and calling it a day. There's, especially in healthcare, there's a lot of organizations where if you cover up their logo, it sounds like any other hospital or health system. The same applies across different industries as well. Branding is also not just an ad campaign that you put out. As important as ads and other promotional materials are to getting attention for your business, the advertisements and the campaigns themselves may or may not be on brand. You can be perceived in a way that you did not intend to be perceived, and you can be remembered for the wrong reasons. So branding essentially is not these different tactics that may advance your brand image or detract away from it. That's why you need to have this clear brand identity and strategy. It leads to what I say here is direction and momentum. If you don't have a clear identity and direction of where you want to go, you'll be pulled in many different directions, especially if you bring on an ad agency or freelancers and others to help you market your business. And each person or each agency wants to put their own creative stamp on it. While that may get you some eyeballs in the short run, it may or may not help build up that identity that you want your brand to be known for. So that feeds right into the momentum piece of it. If you're moving aligned in one direction, if everything is on brand, you have momentum and you're moving clearly in that direction. When somebody who has been exposed to your brand is asked what it's about, they know what your messaging and what your identity is all about. If you're taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back by producing some materials that are not on brand, then you lose that momentum and you confuse that identity in the marketplace. So the 3-step process that I want to show you tonight is very simple here. And actually, in many ways, it aligns very well with the lean startup methodology and others that you've been going through. So first, understand your customers. That's where it starts. Then you want to derive some of those insights into developing your brand identity. Once you have that, then it's time to design your brand experience, by which I mean those logos and colors and fonts and imagery, as well as the behavioral standards and the values of your organization and how that will be manifested. So first step, understand your customers. I dedicated a whole slide on it's not about your product. You don't want to put a lens on your product and be so myopic that you're focused on it, that you miss out on insights that you can learn from your customers and others in the marketplace. So a few bullet points I just want to touch on briefly here. First, do not ask product-centric questions only. So that it might be, oh, what do you like about this product? What don't you like? What do you, when do you use it? Where do you use it? How do you use it? With whom do you use it? Now, all of those things may be important to your business, but that's not where we want to start at when you're developing a brand. And especially, you don't want to ask with any positive or negative bias to it. So you don't want to say, you don't want to come to somebody and say, oh, this is the best product on the market. Look at this feature here. This is so much better than the competition, and it's designed well, and the performance is amazing. Okay, what do you think about the product? Once you put that positive spin on it, most people, if they don't have any strong opinions or they're not informed any differently, they'll just parrot back to you what you told them, or they'll just agree with you because that is the path of least resistance. You also don't want to ask these product-centric questions with negative bias either. No brand is built on what people hate or don't like about it. Secondly, always keep in mind that you live and breathe your brand. You're working on it 40 hours a week, probably longer if it's a startup environment or a small business that you're trying to build. You know the ins and outs. You know what's great about it. You know what areas there needs to be improvement. You've thought through a lot of these issues and problems, especially as it relates to your products in your company. The people that you're talking to, your customers or potential customers, they don't live in that world. So when you want to understand them, you don't want to bring them into your world. You want to enter their world. And we'll talk more about that in the next slide. Thirdly, be aware of different belief dynamics. Now, this comes from, or I first heard about it through a guy named Vince Perry, and he wrote an excellent book about branding. And actually, a lot of the material that I'm presenting tonight comes from his materials. But it, me, and them belief dynamics. It beliefs are around the product. So what do you think about it? What do you like about it? It's around that product. Me beliefs are, how do I feel or see myself when I'm using that product? And them beliefs are, how do other people perceive me when I'm using this product? If you only focus on the it beliefs, you'll miss out on the critical insights that you'll need in order to understand what really matters to your customers or potential customers, and translating those priorities and values into your brand. We're not going to dive too deeply into it, but just ponder, why do you wear the clothes that you wear? Why do you drive the cars that you drive? For most people, it's not only about the product and the comfort or performance of it. Oftentimes, there are some of those me beliefs in play, as well as how other people in the them beliefs in play. And the last bullet point here, it's usually glossed over, but I think it's an important point here. With some products, customers will never become raving fans, and that may be okay. So if you're thinking about a lot of the household goods that you use, you may be very loyal to a brand, but how excited about it are you? You might always buy Charmin toilet paper, but how much do you go out there and evangelize about it to others? And it's not just household brands. It applies also to a lot of technology products. So with software products, a lot of this, you think about this, there are products where when it's working well, people don't think about it. And there are products that are very big on the market, but most people don't know their name because they're working in the background and they're making the customers' lives easier. But these are not the household names and such. So just hold on to that. So understanding your customers, we talked about branding as a brand strategy as to advance your brand identity. So effective brand identities reflect the values and ideas that customers hold about themselves. That, to some, you might be questioning, what does that mean exactly? But if you think about the different brands, different products you buy in your life, there are some brands that stand for being adventurous. There's some brands that are based on reliability or being economical, or it's a luxury brand. And people buy these things not merely because of the functional use of these products, but because they see themselves, and these brands are a reflection of some aspect of themselves that they hold dear. So you want to learn about your customers. You want to learn about their habits, their values, of course, what their needs are. You want to be able to meet those needs and their expectations. You also want to know about their aspirations and such. So when you're doing brand identity research, and again, here we're not going into specific details. There's literature out there on this. But the idea is that you want to understand why customers buy, why they choose a brand. And here's a very important point. Brand identity research, this is not the place for market segmentation, coming up with different messages for all these different subgroups. You do want to talk to all these potential target customer segments, but the idea is that you're trying to distill one or two key values that you're going to transfer to your brand. So you want to focus on the similarities across these segments. The people may be young or old, they may come from different political and socio-economic backgrounds, but they chose this brand because of some shared values. So you're trying to, through your brand identity research, identify what these things are, in order to have a very simple foundation for the brand on which you build. So it takes asking the right questions. It's not about asking a million questions, but you want to ask the right questions that will help you distill down these elements and have actionable next steps. It's also helpful to simulate. You want to observe people in as natural an environment as possible. You can get people together and do focus groups, of course, but you also want to simulate conversations between them, and then listen for conversational cues. So more specific than some of these key values that you're distilling, there may be terms or words that people are using when they're talking about this issue, this problem, maybe a solution. These are conversational cues for you. These are, some might say these are passwords into opening up a conversation about these topics in a way that people can relate to them. And in your brand identity research, when possible, listen for those, because you may want to transfer some of those directly into your marketing copy later on. The second step is developing your brand identity. So once you've done your customer research, you've found some of these insights about your customers, it's time to derive your brand identity out of that. So I love this quote here from Vince Perry, and I referred to him earlier. Actually, this motto at the bottom here is something that he proposes using. So brand strategy is like knife skills. There's one best way to dice onions. So cooking, or the promotional tactics, is a creative act. Prepping food to be cooked, the branding strategy, is an established practice. Don't get creative with it. So when you talk to different ad agencies or consultants, it seems everybody has their own sort of model. There's, you may have different terms for it: brand essence, brand, a bunch of things that start with brand, essentially. But in Mr. Perry's motto, he says brand identity, at the end of the day, breaks down into just two things: a brand promise.
Let me text you. We don't have to get a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's just for like us. Like, it's just for like us.
Sorry, reminder everybody, please mute yourselves. Sorry about that.
No worries. So brand identity can be broken down into two elements: brand promise and brand personality. We'll talk more about these in the next slide, but these are what you'll use to produce all of your marketing materials should be vetted against these two things. This will be your North Star once you've developed them. So let's say you're getting your leadership team and others on your team together, sitting down for a strategy session or a workshop to come up with these two things. First, the brand promise is the commitment that you make to customers, such as the benefits that you offer. Now, remember, it's not just the functional benefit. Think about other types of benefits or values that people may get out of it. So you get your stakeholders together, and so let's say they've come up with a bunch of different statements that may be the brand promise that you want to use for your brand identity. You want to remove subjectivity out of this. Again, you try to be as systematic about this as you can. So here's a model that is useful for evaluating which brand promise might hold water and be something that you may want to pursue. So it's an acronym of SCORE. First, look at the statement: is it sustainable? Is this a promise? Is this a commitment that your company is willing and able to sustain over time? Are you willing to invest the resources necessary in order to maintain it? Secondly, is it credible? Is it believable in the minds of your customers, of your investors, of partners, and others? You can come up with something that sounds great, but if it doesn't sound like something that is somewhat achievable or credible in some way, then it's not something that may serve well as a brand promise. Is it ownable? Now this means, is this an identity that your company and your company alone can capitalize on, and when people think about this type of promise in that industry, they'll think about your company. If you're saying the same thing as every other competitor, and they are just equally able to provide proof points that they are pursuing this sort of promise, then you're not really owning that in the marketplace. Is it relevant? Are you focusing on the areas that matter to the people that you're trying to reach? So, for example, when you're buying a new car, there are many factors that you're looking at for cars, and again, depending on the individual or that particular customer segment's what they value. Are they looking for performance? Are they looking for economy? Are they looking for something that's luxury, that stands out? Focus on what those elements are. But people don't buy cars because of the number of cup holders or anything. So don't focus on irrelevant things, even if they are true to your brand. And lastly, is it exciting? Would this commitment motivate the people within your organization as well as those that you work with in order to build your brand in the marketplace there? Besides a brand promise, you want to derive your brand personality, which is the tone or attitude with which the promise gets expressed or delivered. So think of different personality traits for your brand. How will your brand act? How will it behave? How will it look and feel? Some brands might go for bold and strong and adventurous. So others might be focusing on being reliable and safe. Others might focus on being helpful and reassuring or comforting. And you want to pick 3 to 5 traits, not things that are synonyms or close synonyms of each other. You want to find a few different key things that your leadership team and your company wants to portray for the brand. Fewer than 3 traits and it becomes too one-dimensional. More than 5 traits and it becomes hard to really narrow down what that means. So in your strategy session, just a few bullet points on what would be helpful. You want to make sure that all stakeholders, all relevant stakeholders are represented. So it might be you have people from your client services, your sales team, your marketing team, account management, people on your leadership team, of course. Any other operations, development, any stakeholders that will have that will touch on the brand or interact with customers. You want them represented at this meeting. When people are not represented, oftentimes they'll question whether there's validity to the process that got them to the strategy that you've developed. Also, when they're represented, of course, that's how you can get buy-in from leaders across the organization. Your strategies must also be informed by the customer insights that you've found in the first step. And you may do different exercises to help derive these promises and personalities, but make sure that you focus on things with practical results and not just doing exercise for the sake of doing exercise. And finally, this is not a time to wordsmith by committee. So you might have integrity. Some people might say integrity. Some might be trustworthiness or honesty. All of those are very similar. You can group them together. The idea here, when you're choosing these traits, you want to treat them as concepts. So afterward, then somebody else can formalize them, but it's not the time to nitpick over exactly what the wording is. So once you've done that, now it's time to jump into the design process and designing that brand experience. So the first part of it are those visual and verbal assets. And you want to, again, derive these from your brand promise and brand personality. So when you're creating, for example, a tagline, you look at some of the candidates that you have for your top 2 or 3 choices of taglines, and then you ask, does this tagline embody that brand promise? Does this tagline reflect those brand personality traits that we've chosen? If it does not, then that is not the right tagline for the brand identity that you've come up with. Same thing goes for your logo, same thing goes for colors and fonts. Colors, I would just give a quick word on colors. There's a whole host of color psychology literature out there. Colors, when you're choosing a brand, it's not about what your favorite color is. It's not about the colors that your competitors are using or are not using. You want to elevate that conversation on or why you're choosing the colors that you're choosing as well. Secondary hallmarks is also those, what we just talked about, the logos, taglines, and such, those are considered your primary hallmark. Secondary hallmarks, for example, are patterns and shapes that you use in your design. So when you cover up your logo, you should still be able to tell what the brand is behind it. And you want to codify a lot of these elements into a style guide, so that will govern when and how these assets will be used. I also recommend creating templates, so then people know what they can go to. It'll save you time and money, and it help your brand also stay consistent, so people are not recreating the wheel every single time. Finally, your brand, it's not just those logos and colors and taglines and what you're saying about yourself. Like this quote over here says, branding hallmarks signal a brand's intentions, but over time, a brand's identity is a sum of what it says, does, and how it behaves. I want to focus on that, the behavior part. So if you're saying that you're a customer-centric company, but it's very difficult for people to get a hold of your service reps, or your service reps are not delivering good customer service and such, that compromises what you're saying about yourself, right? So a lot of these things, they derive directly from your people, from the culture of your organization. For startups, you have a unique opportunity in helping to shape that culture from the very beginning. It's very different than going into a large organization and trying to shift how people think and behave. So from the beginning, you want to bring people on your team that embody the culture and have the same intentions that you have for your brand. Because at the end of the day, you can't just fake it. You can't say, we're an innovative company, but everybody at your company is stuck on doing the same thing they've always done, or they're afraid of trying new things. So it starts with the values of your organization. These values need to be clear, they need to be compelling, they need to be consistently practiced and reinforced. So it's not just about putting up signs and saying, these are the things that we value. Are they really what you're practicing in the organization? Are these the things that, are these the values that get promoted and rewarded? And what are the behaviors that is discouraged within the organization? Do those things align with that identity that you want to portray? And this is related to that. It needs to be evidenced by meaningful action, not just lip service. We live in a time when a lot of brands are being looked at for how they respond to cultural events and issues that are happening in our culture today. And there are a lot of companies out there that put together a very polished statement that gets put out in their press releases and such, but the organization itself does not reflect what it says there. It does not practice that corporate social responsibility that it professes to practice. And people see through that real quick. So at the end of the day, you want to consider all touch points with your customers and external stakeholders and see how those touch points can be improved to align with the personality and the values that you say your company is about. Remember that small gestures matter there. So your brand experience is a sum of both of those visual and verbal assets and such, as well as how people interact with your company. So with that, that's the three-step process: understanding your customer, developing that brand identity, and designing that brand experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Chris. Thank you for sharing that. So I know I see some questions in the chat, and it looks like the first question is from Kiara, and she's asking, what do you mean by habits? Is the brand identity research related to the brief? Maybe that's for graphic designers. She's wondering if I don't know, maybe you want to expand on that, Kiara, a little bit?
Yeah. Hi. Thank you for the presentation. It was good. So my question, the first question about habits was from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
when you were describing the I think the customer's habits. So I just wanted you to like explain a bit more what do you mean by that. Like I think I have an idea about it, but I'm not sure. And then the second question was about brand identity research, which sounded a lot like what would you do to get like the brief. I don't know if you know what it is. I think I guess yeah, but yeah, those are the two questions.
Okay, so for the first one, what I just mean by habits is, again, you want to enter their lives. You want to understand what their lives look like, what their routines look like. Again, what their habits, what things that they're doing. You don't want to focus first on your product and trying to fit it into their lives. You want to understand what they're already doing and how perhaps you can make certain parts of it easier or better for them. So that's I believe you're referring to the part where I'm saying, their habits as well as their needs, their expectations, their aspirations and such. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Your second question, I'm not quite sure what you mean by brief, but with brand identity research, you can do different focus groups. There are different tools, and we can talk offline a little bit more about this. But there are different tools that you can use, and you can get, let's say you get people in a room or even virtually, and you have different exercises that you're leading them into in order to derive some of how they think about particular issues or problems outside of just what you're asking them about, surveying them about your product.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that. We won't expand. I was going to go a little bit more into the brief, but that's fine. I see we have other questions. From Ahmad has a question. And his question is about whether, if not or not, you could give some examples of traits. What are some examples of traits that companies have?
Okay. So if you think about traits, now again, I say pick 3 to 5. First, I want to preface it by saying so you can think of them in terms of, let's say, 3 categories. There's things where it's inward looking, there are things that are outward looking, and there are things that are forward looking. So inward looking are things that you say about yourself. Oh, we're strong, we're confident, we're this, we're that. Outward looking are things that are more related, that somebody else has to confirm for you. So you're saying we're comforting, we're reassuring, we're helpful. Those are things that, sure, you can say about yourself, but it's not true unless others can confirm that. And forward-looking traits tend to be along the lines of, we're innovative, we're, it could be strategic, it could be, anything around a future state. And I mentioned those 3 categories. These can be any sort of personality traits, really, but I mentioned those 3 categories because as you're picking 3 to 5, you don't want them all lumped into one. Especially, you don't want to be just things that you're saying about yourself. It should be at least a little bit of a mix of the other components as well.
Thank you. And I see some other questions. Rohan had a question. He asked, you talked briefly about your brand identity and your brand promise, and he was wondering how you would evaluate the difference between brand identity and brand promise.
Oh, well, the way that I showed on one of the slides was brand promise plus brand personality together. Those 2 elements make up your brand identity. So your brand promise is what you're saying, this is the reason for our being. This is the purpose of our company. This is the commitment that we have to our customers, the marketplace. The brand personality should also align with that in a way of, okay, if you're trying to carry out this commitment, how best would that be done? How does that align with the customer insights that you've derived? So you're saying that you want to solve this problem for these customer segments. From your customer research, what sorts of personality trait, what sorts of things do they value? What sorts of personality traits are they looking for that they can see, again, a flattering self-reflection of themselves in your brand in order to to deliver while you're delivering that brand promise.
Great. So I did see there was another question that it was from Karina, and I actually, you know, I've had similar issues in the past when you're trying to market or to advertise a product or a service that deals with a sensitive issue. So she's asking about, you know, how does she actually market her product or create a brand identity for a product that deals with elder abuse without being offensive towards the medical staff that she's trying to sell the product to.
Oh, okay. Well, I would spend a lot of time and effort on that customer discovery and brand identity research part of it. I can't give you, an answer off the top of my head of like,
right.
Do this, because that's not based on anything. Again, this whole talk is about doing things systematically and translating those customer insights into that brand at the end of the day. But I would say spend a lot of time with those staff, and you might want to simulate some of the conversations that they're having with each other. Doctors are very different from nurses, or very different from different aides or techs that are in the room. They may carry their own values and their own perspectives on these you want to hear how they speak to each other when something like this comes up, and
right, kind of fly on the wall, kind of listening to the way that they communicate with one another. And then also, I loved what you said there is role play it, right? Practice it with somebody before. I mean, wouldn't you agree, Chris? Practice it with somebody where the stakes aren't quite as high. I don't know.
Yeah, and in this particular example, the people that you're saying that you're selling this product to medical staff, but usually in a healthcare organization, you're not selling directly to the medical staff, especially if this is a post-acute sort of setting where it's mostly nurses and such. You're selling to the administrator, you're selling to maybe the operations officer or financial officer or somebody. And that takes on a whole different conversation, because the people you're selling to are not the people who are implementing this or are affected by it on the front line per se.
Users and buyers, different users and buyers, right? We talk about this all the time. I loved your quote, by the way, with the cooking, with the onions. I haven't heard that one before. What a great, wonderful way to articulate the difference between when you can be creative and should be creative, and when it's just a systematic process. There's no creativity in there, right? The way you chop an onion is always going to be the same. You chop that onion the same way. You can be creative with what you do with it afterwards. I just love that.
Right.
A great way to.
Yeah. When I first read that, I was like, this is an amazing example here. And because in the context of that book where he was saying this quote, he said, a lot of ad agencies, they're not experts on branding. They're experts on advertisement. But because they're experts on advertisements, it's in their DNA to try to be creative about things, push the envelope about things. So many of them, every 3 to 5 years, come up with a new model that they're selling to customers. And they're like, oh, okay, we have this, this new diagram that we're using, and these new terms, and this is how we define these terms. And unfortunately, for the customers that are paying for this, you're paying for their learning for something that's not grounded in anything, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I loved his the way that he breaks brand identity down to just 2 items as well.
Yeah, I love it. And what's the title of that book? Sarah was asking the title of that book.
The title of the book is Identity Crisis, and it's focused on the healthcare industry, because Vince Perry comes from branding for drugs, the pharmaceutical industry. So there are several chapters that may not apply to you if you're outside of healthcare. Yeah. There are things such as selling healthcare is not the same as selling consumer products. When you're selling consumer products, for example, he says, often it's a celebration of self. You get a new car, you get a new iPhone, you buy these new things, and you post about it on social media, you tell your friends about it, hey, look what I have. It's a celebration of self. Versus healthcare, oftentimes people don't want to know others' don't want others to know that what drug they're taking. It's more of helping them get to a new normal or restoring their identity rather than celebrating their identity. So, yeah.
That was another great point that you made. Not every single product or service is going to be something that is going to excite or wow people, and that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. Not supposed to. So I saw another question here from CJ. He wanted to know about when you're designing your brand experience and choosing colors that embody your brand. You mentioned elevating the conversation through color psychology, but you also mentioned not worrying too much about what the competition is doing. I don't know if that's exactly what you were saying there, but if they are implementing some of these tactics, how do we go about standing out and still resonating with people without totally reinventing the wheel?
Okay. Well, when I say not worrying too much about the competition, I mean, you don't just look at what colors they're using and trying to use something different. Sure, you can stand out, but is that a good thing per se? When you're choosing colors so there's a lot that goes into colors. When I say elevate the conversation, one is you want to brand your colors too. That's one thing. You want to give them names and you don't want to say, oh, red, blue, whatever. You want to choose specific colors and and give a good reason behind it. And also with elevating the conversation, it's not like, oh, red means stop, green means go, or life, or whatever. There's a lot of literature out there on color psychology, and try not to just stick at that surface level, but go deeper on that. And again, you're vetting it against your brand promise, but especially your brand personality. So if your brand personality, for example, is one of the personality traits are you're adventurous, and then you're using colors that, you're using like a grayscale or black and white or something that looks very traditional or formal, that maybe doesn't fit there. Or if your brand is supposed to be something that is fun and cute and you're using those dull type of colors, that doesn't quite fit there either. So again, your colors and everything else, that you're vetting it against your personality traits. Does that help answer your question?
So it seemed pretty clear to me. CJ, did that answer?
Yeah, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that.
So we did have one question here from Kiala, who was hoping that the team could get in contact with you. Would you mind? I know we do have your contact information at the rec. Is it okay if we share it with our teams here?
Yeah, that's fine. It's on the last page of my slides anyway.
Yeah, it's on the last page of the slides, and then it's in that recap form as well that we have. So you can access it there. I'll be happy to share it with you there. So any other questions from the audience? Any other questions? Did I miss any? I hope I didn't miss any as we were going through. So.
Well, people
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Lena.
Sorry, it's just if people were thinking of one last question, I wanted to put in a plug for the feedback form that's in the chat. I'm going to post it one more time. Sorry, y'all. But yes, it really does help us. So please take a moment and don't forget to copy and paste outside of the link outside of the chat.
Yeah, I mean, thank you actually for sharing that, Lena. I mean, it helps us with our branding and with our research, and it helps us make sure that we're providing what people want. And so, yeah, thank you for reminding everybody there. And I'm Chris. I hope I didn't cut you off. I wanted to give you the opportunity to share anything else that you'd like to share with the with our cohort and with the audience.
Well, again, I just want to thank everybody for your time, and maybe not everything was new, but I hope that gives you a systematic way of approaching this, and something to think about at least as you're building your brand and in your organizations.
Yeah, I think it was for a lot of us. There were a lot of things that were new in there, and we have people from all different backgrounds and skill levels. So I was really appreciative that you that you touched on so many things that you did. Okay, so I was going to ask everybody, would you mind taking a photo? Do you guys mind taking a photo? So if you wouldn't mind, all I would ask that you do is to please turn on your camera so that we can all get in the shot together, and then I'll count us down. And then if you smile, look camera ready, right? We're going to take a shot. Oops, I wasn't quite ready. We're going to take a photo again, and 3, 2, 1, and smile. Wonderful. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you. Thank you. Have a great night. And
Good
thank
night.
you, Chris. Thank you all.
Again, Chris.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.